Good morning. Hey, welcome back to part two of our series titled Marriage and Family. Man, it's great to have y'all here. Hey, today's message is going to, I don't know, might be short, might not. You never know with these messages. But hey, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Daily Drink Ministries. Get these messages out there for people. Y'all ready? Here we go. Okay. Part two of our message titled Marriage and Family is subtitled, Accept Your Mate Uncontrollably. Oh, yeah, that's a fun one, isn't it? Accept your mate uncontrollably. Now, here's the thing. I got married when I was young, 19 years old when I got married. Uh, if I had known some things about my wife that I later learned, I'm not saying we wouldn't have got married, but it would have made some situations in our marriage a lot easier to deal with. Okay? Now, we dated for a very short period before we got married, so it's kind of our own fault there, but is what it is. Hey, it's 2017. We've been married for 16 years, going on strong, so congratulations. Woo! Okay, so, but with that said, accepting your mate uncontrollably. Always, a brother of mine, when he's doing marriage, when he's talking to people about getting married, he always asks them, he says, write down 5 things that you hate about your spouse. Write down 5 things that you hate. Now, can you live the rest of your life with those 5 things? Because you're not going to change your spouse. Only your spouse can change your spouse, right? So you have to accept them, even with the things you don't like. Okay? Now, to put a scriptural spin on this, I cannot hear unconditional love or unconditional acceptance, because even if you're talking about your children, because this is marriage and family, now we're focused on marriage, but we're going to talk about a little bit of family acceptance too. I cannot think unconditional acceptance of our loved one without thinking of the book of Ruth and the story of Ruth. So the scripture I want to read to you today is Ruth chapter 1, verses 14 through 18. And backstory here. Elimelech, probably said that wrong. Elimelech moves his family, which is his wife, Naomi, and his 2 sons, to, my mind just went blank. Yeah. Anyways, he moved them. Okay? Took them with him because there was a famine. Drought, famine, all this stuff. So he moved them. Went to a foreign country. While in that country, his sons got married. Okay? One was married to Ruth. The other one was married to Orpah. So then Elimelech dies. So that leaves Naomi with her 2 sons and her 2 daughter-in-laws. Then her 2 sons die. Now, I guess I should say, there's about a 10-year span here. Okay, from the time that Elimelech dies to the time that his sons die. Okay, so there's about 10 years there that it's just Naomi and her sons and her daughter-in-laws. And then her sons die, which leaves Naomi with these 2 daughter-in-laws from a foreign country. Naomi hears that things are well back in Judah, and so she's going to move back home. And so she's telling her daughter-in-laws, y'all stay here. Go back to your families. You're not required by law to stay with me. I can't provide you another son for you. I'm too old. Go back to your families. Then that's where we're going to pick up. So Ruth chapter 1 verse 14 says, Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. Look, Naomi said to her, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. You should do the same. But Ruth replied, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said nothing more. So here Naomi has accepted Ruth, even though Ruth is not obligated to go with her anymore, and even worships another foreign gods. Okay? But why? Because Ruth had accepted Naomi, even though Naomi couldn't protect her and couldn't even provide for her. That is unconditional love and acceptance. It doesn't matter the conditions that the other person is living in or is around them. You love them for who they are. Okay? So when I read that, I'm like, man, can you love your spouse when the conditions are so bad or have been taken away? The provisions have been taken away and it's just you and them. You know, I wrote some questions down. Let me read these to you. Ask yourself these questions. What things about your spouse irritate you? Do you talk to your spouse about them? Yesterday we were talking about empathy and communication. Do you talk to your spouse about these things that irritate you? Do you pray over these things that irritate you? Ooh, now there's one. Maybe if you prayed about them, the Lord would enlighten you on why they do these things. Put two and two together there. Come on. Now, here's one for you. What if the one physical attribute that you love the most about your spouse was taken away? What if the one physical attribute that you love the most about your spouse was taken away? Could you look past it and see the spiritual person inside? You know, could you? Things are all peachy keen. What if something happens and they can't go to work and provide for the family? Would you still love them unconditionally and accept them? Anyways, so that's just the tip of the iceberg with the physical side. You can go a lot deeper with the emotional side, with the spiritual side. You know, I'm Baptist. What if my wife was Pentecostal? Yeah, they're both Christian, but they're different denominations. You know, get on things like that. Can you still accept your mate unconditionally? So, with that said, let's look at what happens. Okay? They're accepting each other unconditionally. If you go on and read through the book of Ruth, okay, you'll see that later on, Boaz ends up providing them food and shelter. He provides for them. So the things that Naomi couldn't provide, Boaz ends up providing them. And the things that Ruth was, say, well, I don't know, but Boaz ended up providing. Boaz ends up marrying Ruth, where then they end up bearing a son, which therefore is now Ruth's, Naomi's, child, if you will, not child, but offspring, if you will. She falls under that line. That son is Obed, who is the grandfather of David. So David and the generations before him come through from Boaz and Ruth, who all took place because Ruth accepted unconditionally the love she had for Naomi, and likewise Naomi for Ruth. So you've got this unconditional acceptance of love of each other that builds on itself, supplies what they need, only to go on down the line, and God's got his hand in it all the way down the line, and we end up with David as a descendant. And we can, we're not going to get into all the great things that David did, but it's just, you never know how the Lord's going to work through you. But it all starts with an unconditionally acceptable love of each other. And you've got to have that in your marriage and in your family with your children. So that's my daily drink for today. If there's things that irritate you about your spouse, you need to pray over them. You need to ask the Lord to give you an acceptance of those things. Talk to them. Discuss with them. Love them with an unconditional acceptance of love. That's my daily drink for today. Y'all be blessed.